Hi everyone, my name is Clare Barker and I'm a registered dietitian working with Aramark Canada in the higher education area. I have several higher education locations in the Toronto area, including Centennial College. So my role is to support healthy eating on campus, as well as support education around healthy eating and engagement around healthy eating on campus. So today's talk is all about how to read a food label. And the first thing to know is that there are two parts to the food label. There's the nutrition facts table, which lists the nutrient content of the food. And then there's also the ingredient list, which lists all of the ingredients of the food using common names so that it is understandable. Well, why is knowing all this information important? Certain people, for example, if someone has an allergy, must completely avoid eating certain foods or food ingredients. So in this case, the ingredient list is very helpful to make sure that you know what you're eating. In other situations, people might need to limit certain nutrients. For example, if somebody is at the end stages of kidney disease, they might be trying to eat less potassium. Or somebody who has diabetes and uses insulin might be counting the amount of carbohydrates in their food in order to figure out how much insulin to take with their meals and snacks. And what if you don't have an allergy or any of these medical conditions? A nutrition facts table and the ingredient list can still be helpful for you to help you compare different foods and also identify foods that are more nutrient dense. At this point, you might want to go and find a food item that has a nutrition facts table on it. For example, in your fridge, you might have yogurt, cottage cheese, or maybe you have some bags of snacks like granola bars or pretzels, and those would all have nutrition facts tables on them. First, you have the serving size at the top of the food label. And the serving size is very important because it tells you the amount of that particular food that the nutrition information is for. In this example, I'm looking at cottage cheese. The serving size on this nutrition facts table is half a cup, or 125 grams. It can also be helpful to check the amount of the food that is in the entire package. So if I flip this over to the front, I see that there is 750 grams of cottage cheese in this container. A little bit of math can let us figure out how many servings are in the entire container. So if one serving is 125 grams and the entire container has 750 grams in it, I can divide 750 grams by 125 grams, and I know then that there are 6 servings in this entire container. Next, in bold, you will see that there are the calories listed. Calories are a measurement of the amount of energy that the food provides. On average, adults need about 2,000 calories per day, but it's important to note that everyone is different, so you might need more or possibly less than 2,000 calories per day. Below the calories, you will see the fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are listed. These are the 3 macronutrients that actually provide the calories in the food that we eat. So first, you see listed the amount of total fats. It is in bold, and you will see the number of grams of total fat and then also a percent daily value. More about the percent daily value later on in this video. I'm going to look at my real life example, which is the cottage cheese, and it is 2% cottage cheese, so I do see that there are 2.5 grams of fat total per 1/2 cup serving. And then underneath, you will see the saturated fats and the trans fats. These are specific types of fat. So 2.5 grams is the total amount of fat. And then of those 2.5 grams, in this example, 1.5 grams are saturated fats and 0.1 grams are trans fats. Next, you see carbohydrates listed. And in bold, this is the amount for total carbohydrates. Underneath is fiber and sugars. Fiber and sugars are types of carbohydrates. So for example, in my cottage cheese, there is 5 grams of sugar, but only 6 grams of total carbohydrates. So 1 gram of that is not sugar and 5 grams are sugars. This makes sense because cottage cheese is a dairy product and it contains lactose. Lactose is the type of sugar that is found naturally in milk. Next, you see listed proteins, and there are 15 grams of protein in the cottage cheese. And then below that, you will also see cholesterol and sodium. Additionally, there are some more minerals listed. These are types of micronutrients, so nutrients that occur in smaller amounts in our diet and in foods. And first is potassium, and in this example with the cottage cheese, there is 200 milligrams, calcium 150 milligrams, and iron 0.1 milligram. Now let's take a closer look at the percent daily values. They're a percentage, which means that it is based off of an actual number, specifically the RDA, or the recommended daily allowance, for the nutrients that have the percent daily value listed. The recommended daily allowance were determined through scientific studies on groups of people from different age ranges and male or female. And this is because people of different ages and different sexes have different nutrient needs. So how can you have one value on the nutrition facts table when people of different ages and different sexes have different nutrient needs? The value is actually taken from the highest nutrient need for either as adolescents or adults, either male or female, so the highest nutrient need, and that is set as 100%. 100% of the daily value for calcium is set to 1,300 milligrams, which is actually the amount that adolescent males or females would need for 97 to 98% of the population to be meeting their calcium needs. And then if you have, for example, 150 milligrams of calcium, as in this 2% cottage cheese, that represents 12% of the total percent daily value set for calcium. So if everybody ate 1,300 milligrams of calcium per day between the ages of 14 and 18, about 97 to 98% of those adolescents would be eating enough calcium to meet their daily needs. But what does this mean for an average consumer? It's important to take a look at the 5% is a little or 15% is a lot advice. So not everybody needs to try to eat 100% of all of the percent daily value every single day, because first, our nutrient needs are all different. Secondly, the target of 100% might not actually be set for your age or sex group. And then finally, we always eat every day certain foods that don't actually have a food label on them. So how can you include the information off of those foods in your percent daily value target? Instead, consider that 5% is a little and 15% is a lot of a nutrient. And if there are certain nutrients that you're trying to eat more of, like calcium, iron, potassium, look for products that contain 15% or more on the percent daily value for those nutrients. And then on the other hand, if there are nutrients that you are trying to limit in your diet, like sodium. Sodium is part of salt, and eating a lot of sodium can increase the risk of developing high blood pressure later in life. If you're trying to limit sodium, aim for something more like the 5% value, which is a little sodium. On the food labels now, you will see a percent daily value set for sugars, and this is actually all sugars in food. So not just added sugars, but all sugars from natural and added sources. The percent daily value was set at 100 grams of sugar, representing 100% of the percent daily value. It can be a bit confusing because the recommendation is to limit added sugars, not necessarily all sugars, including sugars from natural sources like this cottage cheese, which contains the milk sugar lactose. So when you are looking at the nutrition facts table and the ingredient list, it is important to go and check the ingredient list to see if sugars is an ingredient. And if sugars are listed there as an ingredient, that means that there are added sugars in this product. One key tip for looking at the ingredient list is if sugars is the first ingredient on the list, this means that it is the highest ingredient in the product by weight, and therefore the product is unlikely to be a nutrient-dense food. Sugar in the ingredients list are also all grouped together under the heading of sugars, and this includes all sources of added sugar such as white sugar, brown sugar, molasses, honey, maple syrup, as well as corn syrup and other types of high sugar syrups. So what does a dietary pattern look like that supports health and well-being overall? Well, it's definitely going to look different for everyone because we're all different. We have different preferences, different lifestyles, different cultural, social, and family backgrounds, and we all have different nutrient needs. In general, a dietary pattern that supports health will be filled with plenty of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and lean protein sources, as well as plant protein foods like beans, nuts, and seeds.